Originally written in Bengali by Rabindranath Tagore on the last day of the 19th century. The Sunset of the Century, a poem by Rabindranath Tagore. The last sun of the century sets amidst the blood-red clouds of the west in the whirlwind of hatred. The naked passion of self-love of nations, in its drunken delirium of greed, is dancing to the clash of steel in the howling verses of vengeance. Meaning. The words paint a vivid and intense image of a tumultuous time. It seems to describe a moment when the sun is setting, possibly symbolizing the end of an era or a significant period in history. The blood-red clouds and the whirlwind of hatred create an atmosphere of conflict and unrest. The phrase, naked passion of self-love of nations, suggests that nations or countries are driven by intense self-interest and an insatiable desire for power and resources. This passion is portrayed as being stripped of any restraint or moderation, as if intoxicated by its own desires. The mention of greed implies that this self-love is motivated by material wealth and possessions. The imagery of dancing to the clash of steel in the howling verses of vengeance further emphasizes the theme of conflict. It implies that nations are engaging in violent confrontations, perhaps in a state of frenzy or madness. The notion of vengeance suggests a cycle of retaliation and the destructive nature of such actions. Overall, this passage conveys a sense of a world consumed by strife and the negative consequences of unchecked nationalism and greed. It speaks to the darker aspects of human nature and the potential for conflict arising from unbridled self-interest. Tumultuous conflict unleashed. The hungry self of the nation shall burst in a violence of fury from its own shameless feeding. For it has made the world its food, and licking it, crunching it and swallowing it in big morsels. It swells and swells, till in the midst of its unholy feast descends the sudden shaft of heaven piercing its heart of grossness. Meaning. The excerpt you provided continues to depict a powerful and vivid metaphorical imagery. It describes the insatiable appetite of a nation's self-interest, which ultimately leads to its downfall. The phrase, the hungry self of the nation, suggests that the nation, driven by its own desires and self-interest, is constantly seeking to satisfy its voracious appetite. It indulges in devouring the world, symbolizing its relentless pursuit of resources, power, and influence. The act of licking it, crunching it, and swallowing it in big morsels paints a picture of gluttony and excessive consumption. As the nation continues to feed on the world, it grows larger and more bloated, represented by the line, it swells and swells. This excessive expansion and greed ultimately lead to a moment of reckoning. The sudden shaft of heaven descending and piercing its heart of grossness signifies a divine intervention or a significant consequence that exposes the nation's moral corruption and excessive indulgence. The passage suggests that the nation's unchecked pursuit of its self-interest and its insatiable hunger for power and resources will ultimately lead to its downfall. It conveys a warning about the consequences of unbridled greed and the potential for divine retribution or natural consequences to intervene and disrupt such behavior. Stanza 3. The crimson glow of light on the horizon is not the light of thy dawn of peace, my motherland. It is the glimmer of the funeral pyre burning to ashes the vast flesh, the self-love of the nation dead under its own excess. Thy morning waits behind the patient dark of the east. Meek and silent, meaning. It paint a poignant and somber image of the state of your motherland. The crimson glow on the horizon, contrary to the hope and promise of a peaceful dawn, represents something more ominous and tragic. The phrase, the glimmer of the funeral pyre, suggests that the light seen is not a beacon of hope but rather the symbol of a funeral pyre. This funeral pyre is burning and consuming the vast flesh, which represents the excessive self-love and indulgence of the nation. It implies that the nation's own arrogance, greed, and self-centeredness have led to its demise. The mention of the patient dark of the East indicates that the true morning of peace and renewal for the motherland lies beyond the current state of darkness and turmoil. It implies that a new beginning is awaiting, characterized by patience, humility, and silence. Overall, this passage portrays a sense of disillusionment and tragedy, indicating that the nation has reached a point of self-destruction due to its own excesses. However, it also hints at the possibility of redemption and a fresh start, symbolized by the patient and silent mourning that lies beyond the darkness. Fourth stanza. Keep watch, India. Bring your offerings of worship for that sacred sunrise. Let the first hymn of its welcome sound in your voice and sing. Come, peace, thou daughter of God's own great suffering. Come with thy treasure of contentment, the sword of fortitude, and meekness crowning thy forehead. Meaning. Reflect a call to action and a sense of hope for India. It encourages the nation to remain vigilant and attentive, awaiting a sacred sunrise and the arrival of peace. The phrase, keep watch, India, suggests the importance of remaining alert and aware, being mindful of the opportunities that lie ahead. It signifies the need for active participation and engagement in bringing about positive change. The mention of offerings of worship implies a sense of reverence and devotion towards the desired arrival of peace. It symbolizes a collective effort and the significance of spiritual and moral values in the pursuit of a harmonious society. The passage further calls for the expression of joy and celebration through hymns of welcome. It asks India to sing out, inviting peace to come and join the nation. The description of peace as the daughter of God's own great suffering acknowledges the challenges and hardships endured, suggesting that peace is a precious gift that arises from struggle and perseverance. The passage also mentions the attributes associated with peace, such as contentment, fortitude symbolized by the sword, and meekness. It underscores the importance of these qualities in fostering a peaceful society and highlights their inherent value. Overall, the excerpt conveys a sense of optimism and urges India to actively embrace peace, embodying its qualities and striving for a society characterized by contentment, strength, and humility. Fifth stanza. Be not ashamed, my brothers, to stand before the proud and the powerful, with your white robe of simpleness. Let your crown be of humility, your freedom the freedom of the soul. Build God's throne daily upon the ample bareness of your poverty. And know that what is huge is not great and pride is not everlasting. Meaning. Convey a message of strength, dignity, and the importance of remaining true to oneself in the face of power and influence. The phrase, be not ashamed, my brothers, implies a call to resist feelings of inferiority or shame when confronted by those who are proud and powerful. It encourages individuals to stand tall and confident in their simplicity and authenticity, symbolized by the white robe of simpleness. The passage emphasizes the value of humility and the freedom that comes from living in alignment with one's true self. It suggests that true greatness lies in modesty and self-awareness, rather than in external displays of power or status. The crown of humility signifies a recognition that genuine honor comes from a deep understanding of one's own worth and the recognition of the worth of others. The mention of poverty highlights the importance of embracing one's own vulnerabilities and limitations. It suggests that in acknowledging and accepting one's own limitations, individuals can build a foundation of authenticity and spirituality. By daily building God's throne upon the ample bareness of poverty, the passage suggests that true value and meaning can be found in the simplicity of life and in the pursuit of spiritual connection. The passage concludes by reminding us that what may seem huge or grandiose is not necessarily great, and that pride is not eternal. It serves as a reminder that true greatness and lasting fulfillment come from within, from the depths of the soul, rather than from external appearances or material possessions. Overall, the excerpt encourages individuals to embrace their own simplicity and humility, to value their inner freedom, and to recognize the transient nature of worldly power and pride. It calls for the cultivation of inner strength and authenticity as the key to true greatness and lasting fulfillment.